Hi, everybody. I'm back again. So, I am now talking about the problem statement component of your paper. And let me do a screen share again, and I will go back to the assignment instructions booklet. And I'm on page 7 where it says problem statement. So this is a 2 to 3 page document, and your task is to imagine yourself, first of all, into a role. And by yourself, I mean your whole group. So if you have, let's say you have 3 people in a group, you all agree, okay, we're going to imagine ourselves as the co principals of a certain school or as the superintendents. And you can think of yourself as each playing that role within your group, and you are working together on this project. So you're imagining yourself into this role, and there's an organizational challenge or an organizational problem that has arisen within your work environment. Your task this semester is to explore that problem through all different angles, think it through very carefully, and then in the final weeks to develop a solution for that problem. So the first step is the problem statement. And in some ways, this is the most crucial aspect of the entire paper. So essentially, you're identifying a problem as a concept, a problem in practice. And then the second part is you're identifying a context in which that problem takes place. And the context could be either a real school that one of your group members has, or it could be a fictional school environment. And you will need to be consistent throughout the whole paper. So, whatever context you set up in the beginning of the paper will need to be the context for the whole paper. Now, here are some different examples of appropriate organizational problems. So, we've got things like low parent engagement, especially among a very specific group. It could be inconsistent instruction across grade levels or across schools if you're from a superintendent level. It could be high teacher dissatisfaction and turnover, or it could be barriers to supporting particular groups of students in schools. And you would need to name that group of students. Okay. So it needs to be specific. So, inequitable access to particular types of programs, fragmented support for particular types of students. I've had students do all kinds of things over the years, and I love the creative ones because they're really fascinating to read. So, then I tell you how to structure this problem statement, and I give you step by step directions. So, I say you need to describe the focus of your problem from a bird's eye view. So here's the big issue here. So let's say that I'm doing parent engagement as my topic. So there's a problem of parent engagement. Students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds tend to have less engaged parents. There's a range of reasons for this. Research shows that it's because often parents need to work multiple jobs. They don't have a lot of time. They might not have transportation to school. So I would back all of those up with references. And the references can be it's fine for me if it's from, like, an education source, like Chalkbeat, for example, is fantastic, and there's all kinds of K to 12 sources out there, or it could be from research. Either way is fine. I tend to emphasize probably more practitioner-focused publications would be preferable because use what you actually read, okay? So you want to really dive into what has research shown about the problem, what do we need to understand about this problem, and so on. You may want to lightly dive into here's some of what solutions are tend to be suggested, but you don't need to get deeply into the solutions aspect quite yet because you will be returning to solutions in the final section of the paper. And then you'll talk about the where. So, the context in which this problem takes place. I've given you some page guidelines here, and please follow these directions. And you do need to link it to issues of equity, access, identity, and so on. We will be talking about that together in the second week of synchronous classes. So, I think you'll have a better sense then. And also after you've read the Delpit reading. And very importantly, you need a research question because this is what is grounding your work. I will say the typical mistake students make with this is it's way too broad and they don't tell me what school they're at, what role they're taking on. They don't tell me like a very specific focus to the problem. It's just way too broad. And with a broad problem, the issue is that then it becomes impossible to solve. So you want a problem that is specific in nature And finding the right degree of specificity can be challenging. And that's where you can reach out to me and we can think through it together. Students do tend to, there's two sections of this paper that students often struggle with. One is the problem section of the paper, and the other one is the first frame, which is the structural frame. So those are the two common places where students get tripped up and need support. But the problem statement is, again, really the most important because you need to have your problem squared away. If it is a vague problem, far too broad, the rest of the project will be unsuccessful. And that kind of also leads me into talking about how I grade this. So I have arrived at a point where essentially I grade it, it's a pass fail situation. If you are meeting the expectations, you are doing what I have asked of you, it is authentically your own, it is deeply thought through, it is specific and narrow in focus. And you are doing some deep thinking, deep work, deep weighing out of the various issues at hand, then you will pass. If even one of those areas is not you're not fulfilling it, I will send it back to you and I will say, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing. I expect everybody to pass in this course." And by pass, I mean get an A, but you will have to do the work. So if it is not up to expectations, it is simply not pass until it is a pass. So it's basically either an A or nothing, but everybody gets to an A. So you just need to put the time and work in and you need to reach out if you're feeling like you're struggling. So hopefully that clarifies. Again, do feel free to reach out at any point. I'm here to support you.